Okie dokie. So here we are in the cockpit of the AJS-37 Viggen. Saker finally convinced me it was time to learn the AJS-37, and I agreed, so here we are. And then I think, Saker, you were about to tell me why the jet is so chonky, in your words?
Yeah, so it actually uses the reason why it's so thick and it compressor stalls a lot is because the engine is from an old 737 with a 3-stage afterburner tacked on. So it's actually a high bypass turbofan.
Really?
Unlike,
wow.
Yeah, unlike the low bypass that we're used to seeing of other fighters in this era. So
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Well, Sweden on a budget. I like it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so how do we get it started up here?
Okay, so for startup, there is a bunch of switch.
Oh, say that again. I think you cut out. Saker? You there?
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yep, I've got you.
All right. So yeah, so the canopy there's the canopy release lever that you can open and close. We can go ahead and close that canopy.
Where is it?
On the left side of the cockpit, sorry. It's sticking out from the left side of the cockpit right under the canopy rail.
Right under the canopy rail. Ah, there we go.
And then directly underneath those switches are a bunch of switches labeled in Swedish for your main electric power, which is Hudvastrom. We can turn that on, and by your AOA indexer just to the left of your HUD, you'll see 2 flashing lights. If you press the button between them, you clear the warning.
Okay, cleared the warning.
All right, and now going back to that switch that we just flipped up, there is a switch just to the right of that. You switch that up as well. I believe that's your low pressure fuel valve. And then next is your generator. You want that on.
I see ignition system and generator. Oh, got the generator.
Yep, and then just to the left of that is the start system. You want to flip that and then uncage the throttle by clicking that little hook that's poking out from the front of your throttle.
Okay, so pressing start system, uncaging the throttle, and then do I hit the ignition?
Ignition. No, you leave that there.
Okay, here's something.
That 737 engine will be spooling up behind us. So while that spools, we can go ahead. If you look up over your right shoulder, there's a weird thing sticking out. That's your ejection seat. You just click that and it'll fold out behind you.
Okay, got that armed.
And on the right annunciator panel, the only warning you should be getting right now is CK, which means your data computer is not on, but it will be coming on its own shortly.
Copy that. That is the only thing I see on my cautions and advisories.
Yep, and then on the left side, annunciator panel, you'll have 3 greens. Those are actually your gear, locked and down.
Okay, I've got nose, tall, stall, and tall. Or stall?
Yep.
2 stalls. Okay.
Yep, and then now, so the computer booted up. Before we do anything with that, you'll see the flashy numbers. They're actually giving us our coordinates in a weird Swedish way, easting first and then northing. It's weird. But to the right of the blinky numbers, we don't really need it. There's a little red tab of your oxygen lever. We can flip that up. It helps us pull G's, but other than that, we don't need it. So you just flip that. Should pop straight up.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and load weapons now. We want to take, 4 Mavericks?
Yeah.
All right, so...
Should we also bring like a fuel tank as well to give us a little extra time, or...?
Yeah, so it doesn't really need it for most missions, but I usually bring it anyway just because I like going fast. So fuel tank on the center pylon, 4 Mavericks, and if you want, we can take Sidewinders on the wings.
Okay, and should we take HM65As or Bs?
So the A is the worst, and I never use it. The B has a zoomed-in seeker.
Okay.
So I sometimes use that to snipe, but what I take is the T because it goes boom real good.
Okay.
It's a large warhead anti-shipping Maverick because the way the Mavericks work in the Viggen is I actually very rarely slew them or use the scope at all. I point the plane at the target, press T1 and then lock them immediately with TV and pull the trigger.
Okay, so you don't even slew them. You just slew them via the jet itself.
Yeah, I point the plane. Yeah, there'll be a little dot on the HUD, and I do it that way. So the only time I would use the RB-75B is if I'm trying to snipe a SAM site, and that's the rare occasion that I would slew things. But
gotcha. Okay.
The Maverick was actually aimed via collimator sight right to the right of your HUD. That little green circle.
Yeah.
That's your Maverick scope. Good luck.
Perfect. Alrighty. It's kind of like putting a rifle scope next to your HUD in an F-15 for identification of friend or foe.
Yep. Alright, so we have did you give us waypoints for the target range in the mission editor?
Yeah. So if you go Alt B, you should see a list of all of the waypoints we're at King Hussein Air College, so waypoint 1 and 2 are Nav, then we got 3 at Baca Valley, and so on and so forth.
Got it. Okay. So then we don't need to faff around with the mission cartridge and the knee board. We can just go ahead on the right side of on the left side of the cockpit, behind your left elbow, there's an empty cartridge in the back wall behind the seat. And you just click that, and it slides in a cartridge like an N64.
Got it.
And then, in the real Viggen, what would happen is you would switch over on the back on the CK-37 computer on the right side where the blinky numbers are.
Yep.
There's a dial underneath it.
Yep.
This is where we tell the Viggen what airbase we're at. This is what you do instead of an INS alignment. In DCS, it's gamified, so the airport code that you start at is always 9099. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch that dial over to Ref Lola, so 1 tick to the left.
Got it.
And then the in and out switch that's above the numpad, we switch it to input. Okay. And then 9, and then 0, which is kind of separated from the rest of the numbers, and then 99.
Where's the 0?
It's directly under the Ref Lola dial.
Oh, I got it. So
it's a separated button.
099, you said?
Yep. And then to the right of this numpad, there's 2 rows of buttons that are B1, B2, B all the way to BX and LMAL.
Yeah, got it.
What you want to do is press LSSKU, which is your starting point. So now the 9 should be flashing.
Got it. Okay. So basically for that, we entered in an airfield code, which in DCS, the code is always the same. And then to enter that code, we hit the LSSKU, which enters that in for essentially our start point.
Yep.
And then it looks like in my jet, all of the code that I just put in turned into zeros.
Correct. That means, so what happens, you might have missed it, but the 9 will blink, and then it'll go to all zeros, which means that we're ready to switch the switch back to output. Okay. And that dial can go back into attack position, or actual position, sorry, so it'll start flashing our coordinates again.
Okay, and that's flashing where we actually are, like right now, sitting on the airfield?
Correct. So the last 2 digits are a signifier of your, excuse me, they're a wow, one sec. Sip of water. They're a signifier of the TerraNav system, which the Viggen uses to align its INS inflow like a cruise missile. It bounces using its radar altimeter to measure the altitude underneath it, compare it to a map. So right now it's reading 0, which means the TerraNav is not working, and then the last digit is 1, which means that we might have up to 1 kilometer of drift. That'll fix itself when we're in the air. Okay,
sounds good.
All right, so what target waypoint are we hitting today?
For the sake of finding some good targets for Mavericks, why don't we go ahead and hit waypoint... let's go for Damascus International. There's probably some good targets for us there.
All right, waypoint 5. So what we want to do now is, for example, if you press waypoint 5, B5, that button.
B5, got it.
Above your... So on the right side of the cockpit, there will be a little display that says B and then 5. It's directly above a dial that currently reads now 11 Swedish miles.
Oh, yep, I got it.
Okay, so what we want to do, because in some situations we might need to adjust the waypoint, and if we adjust it as a B point, the Viggen thinks that we're doing a radar INS fix. Okay. So it will realign the entire waypoint, or sorry, the entire INS system around where you adjusted the waypoint. For example, if that waypoint was on a peninsula, and I noticed that it had drifted off the peninsula, I would move it back to the peninsula and fix it. We don't want that in this scenario because this is our target point. We might need to move it for other reasons to acquire the target. So we need to make it a target point. To do that, we go back to the Ref Lola dial, the data panel selector, and we switch it to tact, which is basically all the way to the left -1.
I got it.
Okay, then back to input.
Okay.
You press the button 9.
Okay.
And then you press B5 because that's the one we want to change to an attack point.
B5. Got it.
And now if you look,
it says M5, right?
Correct. Yep. And so everything reads 0 again, so we can switch it back to output on the tact.
Got it.
And back to actual position.
Got it.
One more thing that we want to do. Two more things that we want to do before takeoff, but one of them is just before takeoff. First, we want to check to see which runway the Viggen thinks we're taking off from. So if we switch it to... interesting. Bana Grands. Usually that tells you a runway heading. Now I'm reading all zeros. I don't know why. It might just be a Syria thing. Maybe it doesn't like King Hussein Air College. All right. Okay. So that shouldn't be a problem. We might get a nav failure annunciator light, but the Viggen still will know where it is. It's stupid. So, next things next is release the parking brake and we'll get ready to go. The parking brake is just to the left of the stick. It is a little pull tab that's pulled out.
Okay, I got it.
And we can go ahead and taxi.
My HUD's not on. How do I turn on the HUD?
So the HUD will come on when we switch the left dial. Right now the plane is in standby mode, BER on the left dial. We can switch that to nav. The reason why you want to stay in BER as long as possible on the ground is so that your INS doesn't drift while you're on the ground. It locks the gyros. So what I tend to do is I taxi to the runway, I line up, bring the plane to a full stop, and switch to nav on there.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. For today... do you mind if I fly as a number 1 so that way I can be more heads down and that way you can... Okay, cool.
Go for it.
Alrighty, so I'll start to taxi out. Whoa, it taxis fast. Oh shit. I gotta pause it.
Yep, it went.
My throttle seems to be inverted, so let me fix that real quick. Jesus.
Interesting.
Okay, adjust controls. This is why I have the pause button, because I'm the student. Alrighty.
Amazing.
Axis commands, thrust. Axis tune.
And you're going to want to slam on the brakes, probably.
Yeah, let's see. So, wheel brake. Okay, I gotta add the wheel brakes.
And that might end up being inverted too, I'm not sure.
It might be. We'll see. Wheel brake left. Why won't it let me add wheel brakes? That's weird.
I have it bound as MiG-21 style on a handle on my throttle. I don't like the toe brakes on my pedals, so I don't use them typically.
Oh, that's why. Duh. Oh, oops, my thrust is not on my...
Oh, yeah, the Viggen also likes to bind its thrust to your rudder pedals for some freaking reason.
Yeah, they all do that, unfortunately. I was being dumb and trying to bind my wheel brakes by using the throttle category. Okay, so we got that. Axis tune. And we have this axis tune, invert. Okay, so we'll go ahead and unpause. Yep, the wheel brakes are inverted as well.
Well, the good news is I think you can get out of the grass for the thrust reverser.
Okay, so let's see here. Axis commands and the wheel brakes. Axis tune, invert. Axis tune, invert. Okay, we'll open up. Okay,
or using the thrust reverser might actually tip you on your butt, so you might just want to push the burners again and try to get onto that taxiway in front of you.
Yep, there we go. Okay, that's embarrassing.
Every time you bind a new plane, that's gonna happen. It's just DCS.
Exactly.
So yeah, we can go ahead and get lined up on the runway.
Okay. I gotta tune my rudders a little bit. My rudders are super sensitive.
Yeah, and that will replicate in flight as well. The Viggen's vertical stab and rudder is huge.
Okay.
Because it lands at a very high AOA, so it needs it.
Roger.
But basically, I take my feet off the rudder pedals after takeoff and only put them back on before landing. I never use the rudder in flight in the Viggen, which is very counterintuitive for a plane of this age.
Yeah. Okay. It seems like it's a pretty stable airplane in flight.
Yep. It's actually also very, thanks to its close-coupled canard layout and its wing configuration, it's designed to withstand a lot of turbulence and be very stable in it as well.
I guess that makes sense if you're snaking through the mountains trying to go after Soviet ships in the Baltic.
Yep.
Okay. So with that catastrophe out of the way...
Alright, so line up and come to a full stop, and then you're going to switch that dial to nav mode, and your HUD should come up.
Switching to nav, HUD is up.
Alright, one last thing. We're going to want to reselect the LSSKU as a start point so we get takeoff symbology.
The LSSKU.
Remember that button underneath the first waypoint button.
That button... Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
And
now
so
I have L5 in the little window.
Yep, it tries to say LS, but it looks like a 5. But yeah, that's
gotcha.
your start point. So real quick, at the bottom of the HUD, if you kind of lean up a little bit, you'll see 3 tick marks. And what'll happen is as you start rolling, a bar will increase. And once that bar reaches the outer tick marks, you pull gently back on the stick, the nose will pop up, and you might have to push it even a little down to keep the plane wants to fly, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. And do you do a full burner on takeoff, or do you go like full mill?
So usually if we try to do a formation takeoff, which we won't today, I go stage 2 or low stage 3. We can go full stage 3. We want to take off with burners.
Okay. Sounds good.
Just real quick before we take off, I just want to direct your attention to one more dial that we'll need in flight. It's the weapon selector knob on the right side of the panel.
Okay.
So right now, as long as you know where it is, we're good to go. At some point, we can do it now. You can right-click that once to set it to RB75, which is there's a little tab poking out that says RB75.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, cool.
Sounds good. Okay, so I will go ahead and take off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's sensitive.
Yep. And keep an eye, if you can, at the bottom of your HUD for that bar to fill up. And once it gets to the tabs, just pull gently back on the stick and there you go.
Yep. Wow, that's sensitive.
Yep.
All right, gears coming up. Got a little bit of crosswind that's blowing me away from the runway.
Yep, same here. And on the left side of your HUD, there's a little like support column, HUD reflector glass position. You can click that to raise your HUD to the up position.
You said on what side of the?
Left side of the HUD, like the box that holds the HUD, there's like a little piece of scaffolding, really. It's like a little bit of metal.
I'm looking for it, but we better get on.
Okay.
Better get turned around a little bit here because we're going to get kind of far away from our.
Sure. We can go ahead and you can press the 5th waypoint button, and don't be afraid to use the burner at low speeds. The Viggen needs burner to accelerate. Yeah, and to maneuver. A comfortable cruising speed I find for the Viggen is anywhere between 550 kilometers an hour to 800 kilometers an hour, which the speedometer is found on the left side of the HUD. Or sorry, the left side of the cockpit.
Roger.
Yeah, you'll see like a little Mach number gauge as well inlaid in that dial.
Okay.
And then yeah, so do you have the 5th waypoint selected?
Yep, I've got M5 selected.
Okay, so there should be a yellow caret on your heading.
Yeah, on my radar scope / HSI.
Yep, and we can just go ahead and follow that. That'll take us to waypoint 5.
Roger. And I'm still looking for the little thing to raise my HUD, and I am not seeing it.
It's really, it's hard to explain. So you have obviously the box that
I just found it. I think we're good.
Yep.
And then on my HUD, I see like what looks like Ace Combat gates or something like that.
Yep. So those are altitude signifiers. Right now, I'm not sure what our reference altitude is set at, but basically, if those little gates are below the horizon line, you're too high, and if they're above the horizon line, you're too low.
Gotcha. Okay.
What we can do is, if by default the button is H, and that puts the plane on autopilot, it'll fly straight and level, and reset your reference altitude as well. So you should see the gates rise up to the horizon line.
Okay. Yep. I just put it on altitude hold mode, so that should give us some relief.
Mm-hmm. And on the left side of the cockpit, underneath the glare shield, all 3 lights should be lit. There are 3 green lights: SPAC, at, and HUDged. HUDged is altitude, we're in altitude hold. At, default key binding is A for attitude hold. Sometimes you do that when you're firing Mavericks, so that the plane stays stable in a nose down position. SPAC should always be lit. That is your stability augmentation. It comes on when the jet comes on. If it turns off, it means you've been shot.
Okay. That's good to know.
And
good damage indicator.
And the plane gets very hard to fly.
Yep. Okay.
En route to the target area, we can pull up our knee board and take a look at B5.
Okay.
Looks like QFE on our knee board is 943.0. So
B5, QFE, yep, 943.0. Okay.
And your altitude indicator, just to the left of your radar screen, there's a little dial in the bottom left of it, and we can change that dial so that it reads 0943.
0. I'm not seeing where, so I see, oh, that's the CI filter, sorry. So, where is it again?
Just to the left of the radar screen.
Oh, I see it, altimeter setting, sorry.
Yep. And it's HUDged, that's altitude in Swedish.
Gotcha, so it should be at 094, so it should be 094.3?
So it should read on the dial 0943, which translates to 943.0. If, for example, we wanted to put in 943.5, we would literally just turn the dial so that it sits in between 3 and 4. It's a very precise system, very Swedish.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And so now another cool thing is, while you're in autopilot mode, if you tap trim right or trim left, the airplane will enter a banking turn and hold that turn, right or left. So that's a nice way to get the plane to circle around. You can also kind of fly it on autopilot that way. That's just a cool thing to know.
Okay, that is cool. That's probably pretty useful when you're like going hot as snot down on the deck and you really don't want to fly it by hand.
Yep. And then up and down trim will increase your altitude or decrease by 10 meters every time you tap that button. So
Raj. And it looks like I can just fly it by hand, just very gently on the autopilot to get like a fine.
Yep.
That's really cool. Yeah, like a steering mode. Okay.
So underneath where it says M5 on our indicator, our waypoint indicator, there's a range indicator to that waypoint, and right now it's reading about 5 miles. Now that's not nautical miles, that's Swedish miles, which is 50 kilometers.
Okay, so we've got Yeah, about 60 kilometers or so to go.
Yep. And once that dial winds down to below 4 Swedish miles, it'll wind all the way back out to 40, and the mile indicator will switch to kilometers.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
And so, do we need to cool down the Mavericks?
Nope.
Okay.
The Viggen is very point and click, and you look straight in the eyes of your enemy as you use it. That's why I like to fly it.
Okay.
So basically what we're going to want to do is, as we get closer, there's 2 ways of doing it. As we get closer, we can switch, remember where we switched into nav mode on the left dial?
Yes.
We can switch that to A and F. If you want to do that now, you can, but you'll lose HUD symbology and your Maverick scope will light up.
Okay, I'm just gonna, then can I switch it back on the fly if I needed to?
Yep, and you can switch it back into nav. Another way of doing it is to just flip your safety open.
Oh, okay.
And then when you close your safety, it'll go back into nav mode. But
cool.
The issue is, whenever you raise your safety in nav mode, the aircraft does not use radar ranging. It relies entirely on the QFE setting that you input. For Mavericks, it's not a huge deal, but for dive bombing, it is.
And how do I turn on the radar?
So the radar, we need to be in nav mode, because the Mavericks will overwrite it in the other modes. But you just hit the A0, so the thumbstick, I think we bound it as, you depress it, and the radar will come on.
The A0. Oh, yep, I got it. And that circle on my radar, that's our next waypoint, right?
That's correct. That's waypoint 5. That's the waypoint that you have selected.
Ah, okay. Neat.
So the radar is, once you get used to like adjusting the gain and elevation of it, you can get some pretty high resolution imagery. It's just very finicky, and I tend not to use it for locating ground vehicles because it's almost impossible to tell the difference between a ground vehicle and a bush.
Raj. Okay.
It's mainly used for attacking ships.
We've got some fires out in front of us, so I'm thinking that's probably going to be our target area.
Yep. Because we're flying at relatively high altitude and the ground is so flat, our TerraNav system hasn't been working well. You can see that the last 2 digits read 1 and 5, which means that the TerraNav is in a very rough mode. And the 5 indicates 5 kilometers of drift, which is the maximum it will read. So we can be outside of that.
Just a question here. Mine says 2 and 1 for the last 2 digits.
Oh, so yours is better aligned than mine. I did a little bit of maneuvering, so.
Oh, okay. That makes sense, because I've just been in autopilot here the whole time.
Yep.
Okay. So should we go into ANF mode then for attacking targets up here?
Yep. And if we kept our INS in better alignment, you would see a little dot over the target area on the HUD, a little circle that you can put your dot into. Otherwise, now it's about acquiring the target visually, putting the dot on it, locking the Maverick with the TV button, and releasing.
Okay, I think I have that good to go. My little dot is on the airport, but I think that some targets, like some aircraft on the ramp, are going to be near that large fire on the left-hand side of the airport out in front of us. So I can then move that dot, is what you're saying? It's like, 'cause that's where my Maverick is looking, right?
No, so that dot is just where your waypoint is. The Maverick is bore sighted.
Okay, so that's the dot in the top of the HUD then?
So unfortunately, you don't get any HUD symbology for where the Maverick is looking. This is why I very rarely slave them. The only way you can tell where the Maverick is looking is by looking through the scope and seeing what you're looking at.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to pop it off of autopilot mode because we're about to fly over maybe some AAA here. So I'm going to bring it to the right.
Yep.
I'm going to cross over here. And then
Feel free to increase speed as required.
All right, I will probably make a 360 here or something of that nature to...
Okay.
Yeah. Wow, you're not kidding about those rudders. Jeez.
Yeah, I do not use the rudder in flight. Not above 500 kilometers an hour at least.
It feels super floaty. Like, this airplane just feels really light. You know what I mean? Like, whereas the Tomcat feels super heavy, this jet just feels really light.
Yep. And yeah, I think the canards at the front have a very high angle of incidence for short landings and takeoffs, so it has a lot of nose authority.
Gotcha, that would make sense. Alright, so let's see here. Where's our targets? They're over there. And then I might go ahead and bound my attitude hold for the Mavericks. Let's see here. Just controls.
I'm going on autopilot real quick to open my task manager because something is killing me. It is Google Chrome and her 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Oh, nice. How many tabs do you have open? 2?
Like 1. All right, where did you go?
Okay.
Oh, you're above me. All right, gotcha.
All right, search. Attitude, hold mode, add. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna come back around to the target area. And basically I just flip the safety off and then, oh, I didn't bind the trigger, I don't think.
Oh. Let's check to see if that bound. It might be bound by default, but we'll see.
Yeah, just flip on
Feel
the
free to put it
hold.
back in altitude hold and you can actually hit the, you need to be level to engage altitude hold,
Okay.
or it will hold you in a steep turn orbit, which might be what we want.
Okay, weapon release. I don't want that to be my second D10. Okay. So I'm going to come back around to the target. Yep,
so
you can definitely point this nose around, that's for sure.
Yep, it's just at high Mach numbers, you don't want to pull more than 7 Gs when you have stuff on the wings. If your wings are clean, I've pulled 11.
Okay, so how do I lock the Maverick?
Okay, so you do T1 to get it ready for the edit, you put your pipper over what target you want, and then press TV.
T1, and then press TV.
TV.
Oh, got it, okay. And then what if... Oh, there you go. And
if you don't like where the Maverick locked, you press T0 to re-bore sight it, but you need to re-safety it as well.
Ah, okay. T0 and then re-safety. Interesting.
Yeah. So,
okay, and then rifle. Okay.
Yep, there you go. Nice.
All right.
And then typical evasion maneuver is stage 3 afterburner, pull 4 Gs away from the target. That
makes
will
sense.
Dodge most AAA. If there's an SA-8 there, yank that thing. Just leave.
Yeah. Just out of the area.
Yeah, actually, any SAM up to an SA-8 can be dodged easily in the Viggen without countermeasures by over-G'ing the missile.
Okay.
You just need to be entering the target area fast enough. Sorry, I'm at your 2 o'clock. I'm gonna pull up over you here.
Yep, no worries. I was just trying to join on you. We're all good.
Oh, let me rejoin on you. I think it'll be easier that way.
Yeah, no worries.
Also, I'm lagging a bit, so I'm gonna get loosey.
Okay, don't hit me.
Yep.
I gotta turn the mirrors off. The mirrors are killing me.
Yeah. And then remember after each attack run to re-safety the Maverick and press it, because it won't select the next Maverick until you re-safety.
Okay, gotcha. All right, coming back in. And then basically all the other weapons, like the bombs and stuff and the rockets, they're just like one-pass haul-ass kind of weapons, right?
Yep, and even the Mavericks to some extent can be one-pass. Oh, jeez.
Oh, there goes a weapon right by my face.
Yeah, you know, it's fine. Shoulder shooting. It's War Thunder, right?
Yep. Rifle?
Nice. And, yeah, so typically I almost use the Mavericks. Like, this is probably the longest range. This isn't the longest range I've ever used them, but this is longer than I typically do. And yeah, feel free to get down in the weeds. She likes it down there. Okay. Under the power lines, yeah, you know.
And then I've got going 800 kilometers per hour right down on the deck.
Yep, that's like your typical cruise. When we're in a combat area, I usually tell my guys to hit Mach 0.9. That tends to be the Viggen's best maneuvering speed, but it can't hold that with a full weapons load unless you're in like stage 2.
Raj, what's where's the Mach indicator again?
It's inside the speedometer on the left.
Speedometer on the left.
So underneath your autopilot lights, the green lights, there's a dial directly underneath it.
Gotcha. I was looking at the wrong indicator. I was looking at the thing that says kilometers on the right-hand side underneath the, looks like the G indicator. Oh, no, the VSI.
That is the G indicator. I'm not sure what that kilometer thing is, actually, to be quite honest. I've never had to use that before, and now I'm concerned. Underneath that is engine RPM gauge and your backup altimeter and stuff like that.
Okay. Interesting they have to, like, safety the trigger to, like, uncage and recage the Mavericks.
Yeah, so the AJS version of the Viggen that we have in the game is very jank because what happened was Sweden developed a lot of weapons in the late 80s, early 90s for the Gripen that hadn't yet existed. So they shoehorned the capabilities into the Viggen. So if it feels jank, it's because it is.
Gotcha.
Now, to be fair, the earlier variants of the Viggen did use Mavericks, but again, they never really were intended to. They were intended to bomb. So.
Gotcha. There's my third rifle.
Nice. You may notice at certain points when your nose is pointed at the ground that your Maverick scope is flashing. That's kind of as close to a GCAS break as the Viggen will tell you. It thinks that you're going to crash, so it flashes the scope and makes it really hard to use so that you look out of the cockpit and don't hit the tree you're about to fly into.
Raj, that makes sense.
And then a way to check to see how many weapons you have left is if you can either flip the safety up and your blinky numbers will show, if you have sidewinders right now, it might show something like 101101, which means you have, on each wingtip you have a weapon, and on your inner pylons you have a weapon. And the number
so the numbers correspond to your pylons.
Yeah, they correspond to a yes or no statement on it answers the question, is there something on the pylon? 1 is yes, 0 is no.
Okay, that's interesting. This jet is so weird and quirky.
Yep, truly Swedish. Yep, it's just Swede jet. I love it.
Alright, I'm starting to see... So, when I first got into DCS, like, a number of years ago, I kind of, like, dabbled with the Viggen. But I guess I really didn't understand DCS well enough to really, like, understand the jet well enough. And now coming back to it, like, being, you know, DCS expert, more or less, like, now I understand why people like it. I should have done this with you earlier.
Yep. That's what I've been saying. Rifle times 2.
Nice. So you got 2 off in 1 pass?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I'll shoot all 4 in 1 pass if it's a really sketchy environment.
Nice.
And if you want, you can try slewing around the Maverick and see why no Viggen pilot ever does that. And when you're done slewing around the Maverick, just do T0 and resafe, and it'll rebore sight it.
Gotcha.
And you slew it around with the radar stick.
Okay, I'll try it and see. Because they can't see anything anyway, so what's the point?
Yeah. There are controls, so this is about as clear as it gets, which is why I didn't bother telling you about these controls, but there are controls for it's called the EP13 collimator, and there are controls for the brightness and contrast, but it's not going to get much better than what you're looking at.
Yeah, you're right about whoa, shit, AAA. Alright, breaking it. Yeah, you're right about the slewing. It doesn't do anything, so why use it? Why bother?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm here. You there?
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm good. I just know, I think you flew off in front of me over the combat area. I just wanted to make sure that AAA didn't get a lucky hit on you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. I was just saying, like, I was trying to use the slew, and it was just, like, not worth it at all.
Yep, it's way easier to just point the plane, and... Yeah.
And I guess, like, so, the typical target that a Viggen is going to be firing these Mavericks at anyway is going to be a ship, so that's going to be, like, a super easy bright thing to find anyway. Yep. Interesting that, like, I don't know if it's a change in the daylight that we're seeing as we're flying here, but the the sight started out a lot clearer for me than it is now.
Yeah, that might be a change in the daylight, or just a change in our attack angle.
Yeah.
Reference to the sun, because these are optical Mavericks. So.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so yeah, from this, okay, so nose down a little bit further definitely helps the clarity.
Yep. It's just a luxury that sometimes, depending on what you're attacking, can't be afforded. There you go.
Yep, and I think that's my 4th rifle, so. And we don't have any guns, so we're not going to be strafing.
Correct, there's no internal gun. You can equip the Viggen with 2 30mm pylon-mounted guns and turn it into a little World War II plane. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And they don't drop the casings either, because you don't want them ricocheting off the side of your plane at supersonic speed, so.
Absolutely. Okay, so with that, I think we can head on back home.
All right.
Also, where's my fuel gauge?
Your fuel gauge is right under the range to waypoint gauge on the right side of the HUD. I'm around 35%. Okay. What are you at?
I'm at about 45%.
Okay, so the dotted line underneath indicates how much fuel the Viggen thinks it needs to complete its mission at this speed. So as long as your fuel line is above that line, you're good. Sometimes it glitches out, but it is what it is. Yeah. We can go ahead and press L Mall, and you'll actually see the line rise up.
L Mall?
Yeah, on the waypoint selector. Remember LSSKU?
Yeah, got it.
It's just to the right of that. So it should be, my Viggen is very misaligned, actually. I need to drop down and see if I can find a hill or something to get the Terranav working. But
yeah. Is
should
there...
be off the right side. Mm-hmm.
The, L Mall, is that our home base?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And it just tells the Viggen to go into, later on when we switch modes to landing mode, it tells the Viggen to, use landing symbology instead of takeoff symbology, basically.
Ah, roger. Okay. I'm not sure where you went.
I'm in the weeds. I'm not sure where I went either. I have 8 kilometers of drift on my Terranav.
Mine still says only 1 kilometer of drift. Not sure how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll watch the vid. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. I'm off your 9 o'clock.
Oh, I see ya.
Low.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
It's an easy jet to see. It's so big.
It's funny, the Swedes wanted to sell this to England, and England was interested in buying it. I think they ended up going with Tornadoes, but the selling point was that, well, Rolls-Royce was having some difficulty economically at the time. Yeah. And Sweden was like, well, we did the math, and you can fit the Pegasus engine from the Harrier with a 3-stage afterburner in the Viggen, no problem.
Huh, that'd be cool.
And it would have been a huge increase in performance on dry thrust. I don't know about wet thrust, but dry thrust, oh my god.
Alright. So, here's a question. How do I dump the centerline tank?
Okay, so the weapon selector knob, you're gonna have to push your head down a little bit. Let me separate from you a little bit. For some reason my game is lagging. So you, in front of your weapon selector knob, there's something called X tank that's labeled.
Yep, I see it.
There's you need to flip a plastic cover up over it, and then you just mash that button a few times and the tank should come off.
And it's gone. Alright. So, what year is this supposed to be of this airplane that's in DCS?
The AJS-37 that we have, I believe, took its first flight in '87.
Okay, so it's relatively modern.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the weapons that it uses are all really old. Like the first models of Mavericks, very old Sidewinders. It's interesting.
Yep. So those weapons are all weapons that the AJ version of the Viggen, the original attack version of the Viggen, would carry, along with the bombs. What this Viggen does that's special is it has the ability to carry and program the RB-15 anti-ship missile, as well as the BK-90 cluster munition dispenser. Those 2 weapons were designed for the Gripen, and the Gripen project got delayed, so they went, well, shit, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And shoehorned it into the Viggen. So that's why, like, this is a quote-unquote modern aircraft, but at the same time, very, very old.
Yeah. What is the AFK lever in the left-hand side of the cockpit?
The AFK lever stands for automatic fart control, and fart means speed in Swedish. And what that will do is when you engage it, the aircraft will do 550 kilometers an hour, do its best to do 550 kilometers an hour, or about Mach 0.55, whichever, depending on your altitude.
Gotcha, okay.
That's your range, or that's your max endurance power setting.
Okay. And is that also like an auto throttle for like approach or something?
Yes. So when your gear comes down, it will try to hold your on speed.
Gotcha, okay.
The gear can be dropped below 600 kilometers an hour.
Okay. That's some pretty strong landing gear.
Yep.
F-18 and F-14 can blush at that.
Yep, it can learn a thing or two about that. Looks like we're about 5 kilometers from the base, but my TerraNav is screwed up. I don't know where we are.
I'm saying about 4 Swedish miles.
Okay.
It's like,
yeah. Oh, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, 4 Swedish miles. Yeah.
I wonder if like accidentally I had turned off my like waypoint like drift in the special options or something for my jet.
I don't think that's an option for the Viggen because that's like half of the gameplay.
That makes sense.
So go ahead.
So I have it on output mode and I have it on current position mode for the selector, but I'm getting a 1 and then all zeros and then 1 at the end. So that's why
check your safety. Close your safety.
Closing safety. Oh, okay. I've got a 2 and a 1 now at the end.
Okay. So yeah, I think probably because I throw this plane around, I was pulling a lot of G's. You seem to be in a little more fine of an INS than I am.
Okay.
Basically, the hillier the terrain, the better it works. And when you're operating near the coastline where it's flat, you'd put a waypoint over a peninsula or something that you can see on radar, so you can do a radar fix.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And then, I'm sorry, how do I turn on the radar again?
It is the...
Oh, I gotta be in nav mode. Oh, okay, I've got it on.
Yep.
And then, so I can then use the radar to find, like, the airbase or something?
Yeah, so the yellow circle should have the airbase highlighted if our INS is accurate.
Gotcha. And then I can, essentially, I could move that waypoint onto the airbase to realign the INS alignment if I needed to.
You know, I've never done that with an L point, to be quite honest. I don't know if you can move the airbase points. All of the B points, that's typically what you would do. So
for my jet, it's close enough. We're just like right here. So there's the airbase right underneath us, right at 1 o'clock-ish.
All right, so what we're going to want to do is your Nav Selector, you're going to want to right-click that all the way to the right for landing visual mode.
Okay.
And you'll see your horizon line as well as a line with a dot in it. You want your attitude indicator on touchdown to be above that line. That is your max V. That's your max vertical speed that you can carry without breaking your gear. You may notice now that your attitude indicator has separated itself and the tail has left the aircraft. That means that we're too fast. So you want the tail to sit directly on the attitude indicator. And with gear up, that'll be 550 kilometers an hour for your approach speed. Again, that can also be held with the AFK lever, but I tend not to use it for landing unless I'm IFR.
Okay. I think that for the wind that we've got, we actually took off with a tailwind, so we'll try to go for a runway 31 this time.
Okay.
And the Swedes, for like a short field landing, they usually do an overhead brake, or is it...
I think it's... I don't know much about Swede ops, but I think it's typically straight-ins, especially for things like roads, because once you can easily lose sight of the road in a pattern.
That makes sense.
So I think it's a straight-in, and they use something like the TILS, the Tactical Instrument Landing System. We can go over that in another session. But One thing to note is to arm your thrust reverser, there's a big handle below your speed.
Yeah, I see it.
Pull that out, a green light will turn on. That means the thrust reverser is armed, and it will activate once your nose wheel touches the ground. Don't apply power until your nose wheel is on the ground. Then you will get reverse thrust.
Okay, I see no green light, but I have it pulled out.
Yeah, it's a very dim green light. It was made in the 80s. We can go ahead and drop our gear here. We're going to need to dump a lot of speed. You might want to hit your air brake, unless you want to do an overhead brake.
I've got the air brake fully extended, and it looks like the little horizon line on my HUD has a dot on the runway. Does the jet know where the runway is?
Yeah, if your INS is aligned well, the jet knows where it is by figuring out where it is in. Yeah.
All right,
so
roger.
You would follow, in IFR conditions, in a different landing setting for tills, you would follow that dot in all the way down to the runway.
Okay.
It might also help to lower your HUD at this point, but I think it's fine if you,
all right, I've got it
here.
It's pretty stable on approach. Oh shit, straight for the rudders. Don't touch the rudders.
Yep. Alright.
And we got a crosswind.
Once you drop below like 300 kilometers an hour, pull your air brakes in, and keep an eye on that speed. You're looking really good.
Roger. First Viggen landing, gonna have a real high.
I was not expecting the crosswind. I'm going missed.
Okay.
That's my bingo fuel.
Wow, she's sensitive. Holy shit.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. As you use thrust reverser, once your nose wheel is on the ground and the thrust reverser is engaged, you want to put the stick in your lap and try to alleviate as much pressure off of the nose wheel as possible.
Okay.
You get a lot of lateral yaw stability from the twin bogey setup that the landing gear has. That's why the wheels are arranged like that instead of side to side. So you want to put as much of the plane's weight on those wheels, and it will really help you as you go down the runway keep your nose in line without any rudder input.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a terrible landing to start
No,
off
that
with.
that looked really good. The first time I landed the Viggen, I did full thrust reverser, full brakes, and I didn't put the stick in my lap, and the next thing I knew, I was going down the runway backwards.
Yeah, I did not have the stick in my lap, but I was probably too fast. I didn't have my tail on top of my velocity vector, so it's probably coming down way too fast.
It's always better to be a little fast than a little slow.
That makes sense.
Because avoids tail strikes and whatnot, and going around is a lot easier. At high AOA, the Viggen does not want to accelerate.
Gotcha.
Especially when the gear is down, because not only is your gear down and you're super draggy, but the gear automatically drops your Canard Flaps as well. So it sticks everything into the wind.
It has Canard Flaps. That's crazy.
Yep. And those Canard Flaps are set by the ground crew depending on what your ordnance is.
Interesting.
So they're not at the same angle for depending on your ordnance.
And it pops out the little emergency ram air turbine.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna watch
Very
your
helpful if you lose your engine.
We'll watch your landing here.
I'm getting a little bit of lag and a crosswind. These are my excuses, all right?
Roger.
I can't Cessna side slip this thing. The rudder's too sensitive.
Yep. Can't Cessna side slip anything but a Cessna.
It's true.
Beautiful.
Right. It's a little bit of butter. And we'll tap the brakes, get the nose wheel down, and thrust reverse. And full brakes, back stick. Oh, easy with it. I missed the taxiway. No, I'm not a real Viggen pilot. Oh, all right, wait. Tower requesting back taxi, runway, whatever the hell I'm on. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, we're gaming. This is definitely not kosher with the FAA, but... Oh, man. But yeah, that's the Viggen.
Yep. You go... The Swedes come to red flag and they start taxiing backwards down the runway, and the Air Force has a cow.
Yep.
That's so cool. All right. Well, thank you for showing me. I mean, this is really cool. I want to fly it in a mission now.
Yeah, and if you want later on, we can talk about anti-ship missiles and things that the Viggen was really meant to do, and that's where it will really feel at home.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. Well, thanks a lot.
Yep.